There are moments in life when the world seems to shrink into a single heartbeat, moments when a person stands alone against a force larger than themselves, with nothing but trembling courage holding them upright. For Second Lieutenant Aisha Khalid, that moment arrived the day the sky roared with artillery drills and the dusty parade ground vibrated under heavy boots. She had been trained to face danger, to endure grueling nights, and to push through the toughest terrains, but nothing prepared her for the blistering humiliation that erupted when a senior officer raised his voice at her in front of the entire battalion. The echo of it cut through the open space like a sudden thunderclap, leaving her frozen, her heart pounding, her breath locked in her chest as everyone around her stiffened in shock. Aisha had always known she would have to fight harder than most. Joining the military wasn't simply a career choice, it was an act of defiance against years of whispered discouragement, societal pressure, and quiet, suffocating doubts that others tried to plant inside her. Ever since childhood, she had been the girl who pushed back against limitations, the one who refused to let her dreams be measured by someone else's expectations. Her father's passing when she was 16 had left her with a determination forged in grief and resilience. She promised herself that she would rise to a point where he would be proud, even if he wasn't there to witness it. And so, the academy became her battlefield long before the real battlefield ever arrived. But determination alone wasn't enough. Every day at the academy was a test, mentally, physically, emotionally. The training stretched her muscles until they burned. The drills pushed her lungs to the edge of collapse. The expectations weighed heavily on her shoulders. Yet she endured everything with the silent strength of a mountain against a storm. She was calm, steady, unwavering. She believed that respect was earned through consistency, effort, and integrity. And slowly, she began gaining silent admiration from the soldiers around her. They noticed her discipline, the way she never complained, the way she helped those who struggled while managing her own battles with humility. In a profession built on resilience, she was becoming a symbol of exactly that. However, the path to respect is rarely smooth. Major Rahim had always been prickly toward her, his traditional mindset brushing sharply against her quiet competence. He expected perfection, demanded strict adherence, and saw no distinction between pushing someone to grow and pushing someone to break. Aisha tried to convince herself that it wasn't personal, that he was harsh with everyone, but there were days when the tension in his tone toward her felt pointed, sharp, and precise, like a blade drawn too close. Even then, she bore it silently, refusing to let the weight of conflict overshadow her purpose. Then came the day of the battalion-level field readiness assessment, a test of teamwork, leadership, and endurance. Aisha had spent weeks preparing her unit, reviewing drills, ensuring every soldier understood the sequence of operations. But on the morning of the assessment, a sudden equipment malfunction occurred, causing a delay in formation. It wasn't her fault, it wasn't anyone's fault. But in front of 400 soldiers, Major Rahim's temper snapped. He raised his voice at her with a harshness that stunned even those accustomed to military discipline. His words hit her with the weight of accusation and disrespect, tearing through the air with unfiltered force. She felt the heat rise in her cheeks, but she kept her posture rigid, her eyes fixed straight ahead. The wind carried the echo of his outburst across the grounds, turning the entire moment into a public spectacle. Aisha's throat tightened, not because of fear, but because of the crushing humiliation of being targeted unfairly when she had worked so tirelessly for this day. For a moment, she stood alone, the sting of that moment searing her like a brand. And yet, beneath the silence that followed, something began to shift, something invisible but powerful, something that had been quietly growing around her without her realizing it. One by one, boots stepped forward. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was steady, synchronized, and deeply intentional. The soldiers of her unit, the very people she had guided, trained, uplifted, and stood beside, stepped forward as a single entity. Their movement was subtle yet thunderous in meaning. They stood behind her, forming a barrier of silent solidarity. Then soldiers from neighboring units stepped forward too, shoulders squared, eyes firm, making it clear that disrespect toward her was disrespect toward them all. The battalion she had served with unwavering loyalty now stood for her with unwavering loyalty of their own. The shift in the atmosphere was electric. What Major Rahim had expected to be a moment of discipline had turned into a moment of collective defiance against injustice. He looked around and saw dozens, no, hundreds, of soldiers silently communicating what they dared not say aloud: she didn't deserve this. She had earned their respect. She had earned their support. She had earned their voice, even when theirs was a voice of disciplined silence. Aisha felt her chest tighten, this time not with humiliation but with overwhelming emotion. She had spent so long believing she had to carry everything alone, believing that strength meant standing without leaning on anyone. But here, in front of the entire battalion, she realized that true strength often awakens others. Her dedication had not gone unnoticed. Her resilience had not been invisible. She was not alone. She had never been alone. The training ground felt different now, heavier, fuller, charged with collective loyalty and unspoken admiration. Major Rahim's expression faltered, the authority in his posture momentarily shaken. He understood what the soldiers were conveying without a single word spoken. He cleared his throat, regained his composure, and the assessment proceeded without further incident. But the ground beneath the moment had shifted irrevocably. In the following weeks, everything seemed to change. Aisha found soldiers seeking her guidance more often, not out of obligation but out of trust. She found herself becoming a mentor, a leader who inspired others to rise with her rather than bow beneath pressure. She no longer felt the constant burden of proving herself. The battalion had proven something for her that day: her place among them, her value, her earning of their deepest respect. Even Major Rahim became quieter around her, his sharp edges softened by the memory of that day. He wasn't overly kind, nor did he suddenly become her supporter, but he treated her with the kind of measured respect that comes from reflection. Sometimes people grow reluctantly, quietly, indirectly, but they grow nonetheless. Years later, when Aisha looked back, she realized that moment had been the turning point of her entire life. Not because someone raised their voice at her, but because hundreds raised their loyalty for her. Not because she endured pain, but because she discovered the strength of unity. And not because she proved herself that day, but because she saw how many others believed in her without asking for anything in return. She learned that leadership is not about shouting commands. It's about inspiring hearts. It's about standing firm in your values until others stand with you. It's about carrying others and letting them carry you when your own strength trembles. And so, as she continued her military journey, she carried that moment like a badge of honor, a reminder that even the quietest strength can shake the loudest storms. If this story touched your heart, please consider supporting the video. Your encouragement helps more inspiring stories reach more people who need them. Special request: comment below about the moment in the story that moved you the most.